everyone. I'd like to introduce our newest exhibit into the museum, the T-34 76 1941 model. From what I can figure out, there's about 3,011 made of this particular model before they went into the 1942 model. Nice vehicle to have this one next to our T-34 85. So now we've got a pretty good collection within the museum for our Soviet era vehicles. So the T-34 76, this is our 1941 model. It's very similar to the 1940 model. The main difference being the gun. It's still 76.2 millimetres in diameter compared to the 1940 model, which had what we call the F11 gun, which was about 30.5 calibres long. This is the F34 gun, about 91 centimetres longer, so now it takes us up to about 680 metres per second with the velocity for this gun. Very similar in hull design to the 85, so the majority of the hull is about 45 millimetres thick, including the turret. Main differences between that turret and the 85 turret with thickness is the 85 goes to about 90 millimetres of protection all the way around. You've got to remember there's quite a few factories that did build the T-34 from 76 to 85 variants. Little things between factories changed along the way. If we look at the top of the hull, the plate where the turret sits on, if we look at the front glacis plate here, this top plate sits above it. So this essentially could be a shot trap. So what they've tried to do is put deflection plates all the way around to reduce that possibility of having a round hit and popping the whole top off. But if we go around and look at the T-34 85, they've essentially fixed this problem. So now we have the glacis plate literally come up just a little bit more, so it provides its own lip, and the top of the hull where the turret sits on is actually recessed and it sits in more flush than the 76. So with this one here, we've got our perforated road wheels. This is more to streamline the production and cut down the use of rubber. Going into 1942 models, they would essentially have a rubber front and a rubber rear road wheel, but these three road wheels in the middle were steel. As Lend-Lease was becoming more available from the Americans, that's when rubber became more prevalent, and then they could use rubber for all their road wheels like we have on the T-34 85. No, the engine was quite good. The V234 had around 500 horsepower. At different rev ranges, depending on the build, you could get vibrations through the engine. Transmissions let them down quite early, and as I found with this one already, trying to get it into reverse can be quite challenging as well. Got to really drop those revs down just to try and get it to engage into reverse. With this one, there's no turret basket, so all the ammunition is kept in containers on the floor, carries about 77 rounds. This turret inside is quite narrow. Like I've been in and had a look already, and even I find it a little bit cramped in there. The seats are about this round, so ergonomics-wise, it's not too flash. The job of the commander is quite taxing because the gunner is not only shooting, but the commander has to unload all these rounds from the boxes and load. So this hatch made it a little bit hard for the crews to get in and out, even though it's quite a wide hatch. But there was some sources to say that that hatch was prone to jamming as well. So we've got our rudimentary controls. We've got traverse and elevation. Above him, you probably can't see it because the hatch is where his sight would be. So either the TMFD7 or the PT47 gun sight was located here. There's not a lot of room when you look at trying to load this vehicle. As I said, the commander sits on the right hand side, and down on the floor was where all the ammunition was kept. So it was hard for the commander to get down, grab the rounds, try and load these. The rate of fire was horrible. The Germans could get a lot more rounds away compared to what these could. There's some accounts where the Germans could get away 3 to 4 rounds, probably if you're lucky with these, depending on where your ammunition is, they could get 1 round away. This one, as I said, the muzzle velocity was increased, so it was a good size caliber gun for its time, so it could take on your Panzer 3s and 4s, but just the rate of fire, just the interior of this vehicle is not well designed to fight effectively. So I'm sitting in the gunner's position of the T-34 85. Now, when I talk about the 76 being cramped, for the gunner, this is also in a fairly cramped position. I've got the commander who sits behind me. He's got a little footrest down here that he can put his feet on. So he now can look out and do the job that he's required to do. And then on the right hand side, we've got a third crew member now, which is the loader. So his specific job is just to load the rounds. The ammunition is actually stored around the turret, so it makes it a little bit easier for him to get access to the rounds. Now this one, being a later model T-34-85, also has powered Travis. So we've got essentially a rotary base junction which brings power up from the hull of the vehicle to operate the gun. This is the commander seat. He's got his own cupola that he can look at, the same as the loader. Compared to the T-34-76, they've changed the positions of the radios. So being the commander on the right hand side for a 76 variant, he had his radios down in the sponson to his right. Now they've moved the radio to his left, so he's still got access to his radio. He can still talk with the other tanks and his command.
Tell us about driving them. Like, what do they feel like?
Very rudimentary, very crude. You've got to remember, back in the day, a lot of the conscripts for the Soviet army weren't well trained. They'd literally only get sort of maybe a couple of hours training. So essentially, if you can drive a manual and you've got fairly good forearm strength, because they are stick steer, so you really got to pull back on them. The clutches are really nice. I find taking off in these really easy. What we found with this one was that they have a lot of oil leaks. A lot of oil leaks onto the brake pads, so that gets impregnated with oil. And as you're driving, it just won't grip. So we had new brake pads made for these by a company down in Brisbane, so they're oil resistant. So now, even if there's oil or any fluid on it, it's not going to absorb it. It'll allow it to grip a bit easier and make it turn a lot easier. All rods and cables, no fly-by-wire stuff in these vehicles. So after you've driven these for, a little while, your forearms feel it. You don't have to go to the gym because you've already done your arms and your leg work for the day. Great vehicle. If you want to see this, along with the T-34-85, make yourself available last weekend in August 2024 for AusArmour Fest to go for a ride in this.